We're getting some Waffle boards delivered this morning, which will be a 75mm polystyrene underlay. This adds a lot of thermal insulation, stops your slab feeling cold, and when you heat this space, the ground won't be able to suck all the heat out. So by keeping the whole foundation dry, it really helps the insulation.
You come and go like a monsoon rain. You hide and show like a lightning bolt. You have it all.
In this video series, I take you through the process of how we created this backyard art studio. It features 3 large windows and glass doors to allow natural light to fill the interior. It also includes an outdoor covered awning space with a hardwood batten privacy screen. We chose to use passive house design systems in the construction to make the most of the year-round weather conditions. In the last episode, we poured the concrete footing that'll be the foundation for our studio. It's 200mm high and 400mm wide, with steel reinforcement to give it added strength. We were able to pour the entire footing in one day, which assists the concrete in forming into one complete solid mass. I added a drainage system to help mitigate against rising damp, and then added a bed of gravel in preparation for the concrete floor slab we'll be pouring later. We also constructed a temporary shed to help protect us from the weather and rain throughout the early stage of this project. It's an important part of us being able to pour the concrete floor slab without getting any rain damage on the concrete. As part of the preparation for the floor slab, I'm rolling out plastic damp course. This is one of a couple of materials I'm using to create a membrane so the groundwater can't penetrate our concrete floor. I use this heavier damp course material around the entire perimeter of our foundation and then tape the lighter building plastic to it later. This helps avoid any accidental penetrations in the membrane whilst we're doing the construction. As part of the preparation for building the formwork for our floor slab, I want to set up a decent cutting bench so I can make highly accurate cuts in my timber throughout this project. I'm using some pallets as a base, set on top of the retaining wall we created with the excess concrete debris. Using 45mm by 90mm dimension timber for the framing of our concrete floor slab. In imperial measurements, that's a 2x4. After cutting it to the correct length, I'm pre-drilling screw holes so we can attach it to the top of the footing forms. After attaching it to the corners with heavy timber screws, we double check that it's lying completely flat and straight. I then repeat this process for the other 3 pieces around the entire perimeter of the footing. To ensure the formwork ends up completely square and parallel, I'm cutting a template. When I'm satisfied it's cut to the right length by checking it in the corner, we move it to the center of our forms to establish a perfectly parallel layout of the timbers. I fix it in place with heavy timber screws every meter to ensure that it doesn't move out of alignment during the concrete pouring process.
I'm gonna stay right here. Stay till things disappear. One way, go lay down. Be still. Won't
Yesterday we set the form for the top slab and squared it off. Today we have to do a little double check to make sure it's perfectly level in each corner, in each midpoint. Maybe add a packer or two just to get it as perfect as we can get it. We're going to be pouring this slab in 3 parts as part of how we need to manage it to get a nice finish on the top. It'll also mean there'll be expansion joints in the slab so we won't get any cracking down the road. One of the main reasons I built this temporary shelter was for this concrete, because we're doing it in winter and it rains all the time around here. And then throughout the construction of all the framing and walls, I can move this shed back and forth on the tracks we established on the side. So the idea was to be able to keep my job site sheltered throughout all the rainy season. We're getting some waffle boards delivered this morning, which will be a 75mm polystyrene underlay. This adds a lot of thermal insulation, stops your slab feeling cold, and when you heat this space, the ground won't be able to suck all the heat out. So by keeping the whole foundation dry and watertight, it really helps the insulation, stops you losing all this heat through the ground. So if all goes well, by the end of the day, we'll have 1/3 of this slab poured out and polished off.
To double check the level of our formwork, I'm using the same method I used on the footings. I have a transparent piece of plastic hose filled with water, and by setting the level in one corner, I can transfer the level around the entire perimeter of the foundation. As I find areas of the formwork that need adjustment, I back out the heavy timber screws and add packers underneath to get it into level, and then reset the screw to keep it stable for the concrete pour. With the formwork completely level, we continue our preparation by adding the waffle boards I mentioned earlier. Once we've cut and fit all the waffle boards in place, we add the plastic membrane, which will be the damp course for our system that stops moisture coming up from the ground into our floor. The final step in our preparation for concreting is adding the reinforcement steel. We cut it to size using an angle grinder with a metal blade. Add the plastic shoes that help keep the concrete at the right height inside the slab, and then fit it in place in preparation of our concrete pour.
If you have love, you wanna give me some, and I will wait for someone else to come. Oh, it's sad, but it feels right. Are we just hallucinating now? This is the final, I just take a bow. While it all falls apart, guess you can't win them all. Oh no.
One of the important parts of a concrete pour is to get all the concrete into the designated form in one pour in one day. To help achieve this, I've got 2 guys helping me on this pour. Chris is focusing on mixing the concrete and delivering it in the wheelbarrow, and Bazza is agitating the concrete through the mesh into the form. I'm using my regular concrete formula, which is 6 parts gravel sand premix to 1 part Portland cement. After Chris mixes a batch of concrete, he dumps it in the barrow and transports it to Bazza to push it into the form. We keep repeating this process until the concrete gets close to the top of our form.
I'm gonna stay right here. Stay until it disappears. One way, gonna lay down. Be still. Won't waste another tear. Wait till it disappears.
When the concrete reaches the top of our formwork, we start the next process of screeding the slab flat. While Baz is moving the concrete float back and forth to smooth out the surface of the slab, I'm adding extra concrete to any low points I can see. We've started this screeding process on the left-hand side of our slab, and we're going to work our way towards the right. When all the concrete's been filled and flattened, then our slab will be done.
If you have love, you wanna give me some, and I will wait for someone else to come. Oh, it's sad, but it feels right.
concrete floor slab basically finished, I take one final pass around the edges to make sure that it's extra flat and smooth, as this is where the timber wall frames will be sitting, and I want to make sure they're completely flat and level. Before we finish for the day, we're going to string up an extra tarp to our temporary shed. It's already started raining lightly, and it's important to protect the concrete from the overnight rain. Although we've stopped the rain directly falling on the concrete with our temporary shelter and tarp, it doesn't stop the high humidity in the air. The misty rain conditions we've had all day is really slowing the concrete curing process down. So Baz is sweeping off the excess water the slab is sweating out. Under normal conditions, the slab would have dried out and stiffened by this stage, and we'd be able to rub it down and give it a nice surface finish. But due to the wet weather conditions today, we'll have to come back in the morning and do the process then.
Yesterday we successfully poured the first section of our slab that'll be the finished floor in the studio. Luckily we built this shelter because it rained on me 3 or 4 times yesterday. I was able to keep the slab drier. But because the weather was so damp, our slab didn't dry off properly by the end of the day. Let's take a look at how the slab turned out. Unfortunately, it was too wet for us to put a proper finish on it yesterday. So this morning we're going to try and rub it down, give it a consistent texture. But as far as creating a solid floor to build our studio on, it's turned out perfect. We have 2 more concrete pours to complete this floor, and then we're ready to start building our studio on top.
To achieve a smoother surface on our concrete floor slab, I'm sweeping all the fine grit off the slab. Then Baz is going to add water and rub it down with his trowel. Because the concrete slab is still drying and is slightly soft, we should be able to achieve a relatively smooth finish on the top of our concrete.
Lonely wind is passing by. It tries to carry all the whispers that it finds. The walls are listening when we talk, making echoes as we walk. There's no one left but you and me. It's like a made up place that only we can see. Hold my hand and hear the words I say. Close your eyes and let us fade away. Build a secret place for you and me. Let our minds be caught up in a dream.
As part of the preparation for the next slab we're going to pour, I'm making sure the formwork we're using as a divider is set completely level. I'm using packers to make an adjustment so it matches the rest of the formwork. I then secure it in place with heavy timber screws. I'm now ready to install the waffle boards that'll be adding a layer of insulation under our concrete floor slab. I adjust the gravel as necessary to align the waffle boards level to our footings. These dense polystyrene panels are purpose designed to lay under concrete and are part of the passive house elements we're adding to our structure to keep it warm. The waffle boards offer a thermal break between the floor slab and the ground, which will reduce the amount of energy needed to heat the structure and keep it warm through winter.
Tired snowflakes are coming down, collapse into water when they hit the ground. I hear the sound of empty streets. Yesterday has gone to sleep, so all that's left is you and me. I can't promise you're the only thing I see. Hold my hand and hear the words I say. Close your eyes and let us fade away. Build a secret place for you and me. Let our minds be caught up in a dream.
When all the waffle boards are fit and level to our footing, I add the plastic underlay. This will stop the groundwater rising up into our floor slab.
Quiet voices in the night. Time is running out of sight. A lonely wind is
just passing by. Tries to carry all the whispers that it finds.
We're now ready to pour the second of the 3 slabs we'll be pouring to create the concrete floor. One of the reasons I'm pouring the concrete in segments instead of one complete pour was to save money. I discussed it with my client, and because she's using the studio for painting, she didn't mind having a slightly rough concrete floor. So by pouring it in multiple segments with a smaller crew, we're able to get the concrete floor put in the ground for about half the price.
No mistake ever kept me late. We spent summers catching fireflies and winters on our skates. One big smile across my face. We used to dance our way to church on Sundays. Mama set the pace. Daydreamer. And me. Take me back, all the way back to them days. Running around in a gown and a crown, barefoot.
We let the second slab set up over the weekend before preparing for the third and final slab of our floor. I remove the form timber that divides the slabs and then double check that our gravel's at the right height for the waffle boards we'll be adding. I'm using a straight piece of framing timber to double check the waffle boards aren't sitting any higher than the footings. I need to connect the waterproof membranes that lie under the first 2 slabs we poured. I purposefully left extra lengths of membrane under the first 2 slabs so we could join them together under this third slab. By adding an extra piece of membrane to this join, I can create a wider overlap and ensure a waterproof connection in the damp course. I then secure all the seams with gaffer tape before adding our waffle boards on top. They delivered the concrete materials we'll be needing for this third and final slab. I then started preparing the reinforcement steel we'll be adding.
So offshore, playful and free, without a care in the world. I was one rich little girl, daydreamer, sitting at me. Take me back, all the way back to them days. Running around in a gown and a crown, barefoot.
In preparation for the third and final slab, I need to move the rain shelter into a better position.
Every step, every breath, for you, my head's up over the clouds. For you, if there's a valley, I'd build a bridge so that you could get by.
Takes a little bit of effort, but I can move the whole shed cover by myself. Now it's sitting over the part we're going to pour the concrete in tomorrow because we've got rain predicted. I'm going to set some ramps up so we're all ready to pour our concrete tomorrow.
Imagine it, it's my new best friend, and rain's all I see. I got a PhD in love. My heart covers every degree, but there's no guarantee in love. No, we just have to wait and see.
After completing our slab pour, we wrapped up our temporary shelter with tarpaulins. As I'm expecting light rain overnight, I want to protect the concrete. Join me on the next episode as we start framing the walls on top of the concrete we've poured.
Over and over, injustice to injury. This is a part